Welcome back to Whamstein. There are no jokes this time, only serious business.
I got pretty like a girl, and he got 5 stories to tell.
Whamstein.
Lunacid is a game from 2023 about being a paraplegic in Manchester. But chronologically, we're not there yet, so let's jump forward and back a little bit. Lunacid Tears of the Moon is a 2025 prequel to Lunacid, made entirely in a forgotten piece of software called Sword of Moonlight. This little program was released by From Software in the ancient year of 2000. Exclusively in glorious Nippon. The whole point of Sword of Moonlight is to feed people the tools to make more of the Kingsfield that they craved so much. Even you can learn to make a field of kings if you put your heart into using this archaic shit instead of the many resources that we have at our disposal today for free. You know, just in case your other favorite hobby was self-flagellation. I first learned about this from a little YouTuber. You've probably never heard of him. He's pretty underground. Madular. Check him out. He's a much better creator than I could ever hope to be. Not in a self-deprecating way, he's just, like, really fucking good. Back to Tears of the Moon. Not only is it made entirely in Sword of Moonlight, but it's completely free, too. A slice of genuine PS1-style dungeon crawling, with all the heart and hard work that goes into making a full game, all for $0. So before we talk about this, I would highly recommend that if you're at all interested, go play it. There's literally no downside, except for maybe showing just how bad you are at old styles of games. You whippersnappers would probably implode after being let loose in Morrowind. So, where do we begin?
The kingdom of Lyria rests in darkness, surrounded on all sides by the vast poison sea. In ages long past, brilliant silver moonlight fell upon Lyria, leading to its ascension as a great kingdom of magic. But this time may soon come to an end. The fledgling sorcerer Kalima Cerulean was granted a macabre vision of the near future. Soon, the great old one who sleeps beneath the earth will awaken. Unless he can quickly perform a ritual to lull it back to its slumber, the world as we know it will come to a violent end.
Before anything else, let's go back to that older styles of games comment. This is a game made in a software that didn't know 2 analog sticks was not only normal, but the future. The controls aren't bad and they can be configured. It wasn't recognizing my keyboard for some reason, so I opted to use my controller, which thankfully is an option. The only issue that really comes from this control scheme is getting used to using buttons to look up and down. Unless you're like me and already familiar with this type of control scheme, it can be really hard to get used to. Normally it's mapped to right bumper and X on an Xbox controller, but again, you can change it at any time in the menus. This is the setup I went with for my comfort. We begin in a little stronghold in the kingdom of Lyria. Here we can get used to the controls, talk to a small handful of NPCs, and shop. This is our hub and home for the game. Get comfortable, we're going to be seeing this place a lot. And before you know it, we have our task. We need to reforge the Sword of Moonlight in order to save the kingdom from impending doom. The problem is that the pieces are in this other kingdom that we destroyed, like, a long time ago, that's also, like, sunken into the sea, or the fog, or some shit, so we need to get a water crystal from the abandoned mines. Welcome to the tutorial. If you think you're making it out of here unscathed, you're in for a rude awakening. Observe this mushroom, the first enemy you're likely to fight. It doesn't walk, it's slow, it's weak. You can still die if you're not using the strafing buttons. Remember, this game only understands a single analog stick. You're using tank controls, and you're gonna like it, or so help me God. Despite being labyrinthine, the mines have very few completely unblocked corridors, so it's just a matter of wandering around until you find yourself at the boss. While we wander, it's been a while since I waxed on and on about shit you don't care about. So, let me make amends for that and ask you a dumb and rhetorical question. Why would someone make a game in this software? What makes someone go out of their way to intentionally make a game that is clunkier, uglier, smaller, all while wrangling and taming a program that I don't think can truly handle this, then releasing it for free? There is a lot of hard work that went into this, but isn't the targeted audience kind of tiny compared to the effort that went in? The answer is yes. That's the whole point. If you're at all familiar with the nightmare known as online discourse about video games, you'll probably have seen by now some dumb asshole that either doesn't respect video games or just outright hates them have some new, clever thing to say about this medium they clearly have no right barging in on. There's always this big stink about shit like, ugh, these plants didn't move enough when I walked through them in my $70 AAA 300 gigabyte Battle Royale extraction shooter wacky woohoo. Yeah, you see those guys a lot, and they're also the guys that spread this idea that older games are objectively worse than newer games. If the release date starts with 19, you might as well need a Rosetta Stone to play it. Sometimes, yeah, if you're not playing on original hardware, it could potentially be a bitch to set up for a couple games if you want them to be perfectly optimal. But don't let the liars fool you. Those older games were successful and beloved for damn good reasons. That's why this game exists. It's a love letter to Kingsfield, a game that only exists in the mainstream now as a footnote leading to Dark Souls. To some of us, though, it's not just a footnote, but an entire identity and something that we dearly miss. That's what Tears of the Moon is for. We'll come back to this idea in a moment, though. We've got to discuss the actual game again. I don't know if you've ever played a video game before. They're kind of deep, they're kind of underground, But here in the business, we call this thing a boss. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This guy isn't harassing me and making me file paperwork, but no, you gotta stick with me here. You gotta get on this wavelength here. In a video game, typically they're like stronger and larger enemies that serve as a challenge to test the player's abilities. A way to gate them from progression if they're not prepared for the challenges that lie ahead. Anyway, I saw a dumb fuck call bosses an outdated concept once. That's not important, I just wanted to share that. That big mamma jamma was guarding a new spell, and our key to reaching the water crystal, conveniently found within the deep mine graveyard. It is a testament to how immersive this game is that I didn't question why this is here until now. Of course, it's not that simple. Some winged asshole takes it from us and tells us directly where to find him, so now we gotta track down the crystal again. Great. This is a good time to restock at Lyria and recollect our senses before we head into the spooky zone. Welcome to Latest Keep, the second big area. This one's also supposed to be labyrinthine, because there's caves and shit, but it's, again, not complicated. That's kind of a shame and a huge relief at the same time. The game is free, so I really shouldn't expect all the hardcore fixings I know and love, but I can't help but feel a little sad that there's all kinds of evil, fucked up traps and puzzles that aren't here. I want my pit trap floors. I want poison tile floors. I want warp puzzles. Oh, sigh. I guess I'll just go back to Strange Journey again. Anyway, this is an old man. He has a solution to the big green gateways that block our progression. But in order to get it, he wants us to check on a girl that went into the caves right next to his house. Did I call these caves? I meant obvious trap. Oh my god, he turned into a little demon man. How could we have seen this fucking coming? Yeah, we kick his soft spot in like a toddler, and now we get to go past the glowy walls. Now that we're at the actual latest keep, of course it's under siege by a moon beast. What that means is a mystery, but our water crystal is in danger, and that's what really matters here. So, here's about where I started using the run feature a shit ton more, because this game unfortunately shares a feature from the first 3 King's Fields. There's really not a lot you can do with the combat to keep it engaging and fresh. And with the ability to just run past everything, there's not a lot of reason to engage with combat. But that's more the fault of this being sort of a Moonlight, and not wholly on the developer. Running past all these little demon men, we chance upon Wind Sage Ozen fighting off the Moon Beast and telling us to run. And like the genius I am, I went the wrong way the first time and got confused for a while. Until I finally came back and yay, now we have our water crystal! The next stretch of gameplay consists a lot of me just running, avoiding fights, and pausing a lot to look at fan-made maps to find all the shit I'd need to do, without a lot of significant stuff happening, so let's go back to that thing I was talking about earlier. How about that? So what if someone really likes old Kingsfield? So what if it's your favorite childhood game? Why on God's green earth would you choose to make a game based on it and not fix all the clunkiness? Well, that one's easy. Plenty of people already have. This isn't like a dead genre or anything. Hell, this developer already made an idealized, perfect version of this concept already. And we're gonna talk about it later, so shut up. A lot of people only think of video games as products and entertainment and not as a medium worth treasuring as art. Like, we can look back on and enjoy old black and white movies still, right? We can understand what they were for and what they meant. Why is it so wrong to value older games the same way? Well, that brings us to a different topic entirely. Video games require you to directly assume control, unless you're playing a Sony game after Uncharted. This can obviously lead to a handful of issues. With a movie or a book, while it may take a little extra suspension of disbelief to get into what you're watching or reading, you yourself are not an active part of the medium. If you want the Mario to move left, you have to hold left. If you want James Sunderland to turn, you have to turn him. You need to interact in order for the game to work at all. That's the whole point. So in modern day, when a lot of our control schemes have become so homogenized and recognizable, to have to go back even like 15 years or less even, you might run into games that you don't immediately compute. And because you are the one in control, if you can't jive with how it controls, then step one is immediately failed. This is why hand-holdy tutorials are annoying, but also why they exist in the first place. We used to have really fucking weird out-there control schemes, often without the ability to change the binds. So when that becomes a talked about issue enough, it was solved with sit in a seat and watch the roller coaster go by. It was just an unfortunate overcorrection of what was a real problem. A slight problem, but a real one. This can take us back to the bigger idea. Why are those antiquated controls preventing old games from being accepted as worthwhile to modern audiences? Shouldn't we know better and be stronger now? Well, no, that's not how that works. We've only gotten more comfortable and complacent, actually. That's kind of the whole deal with the modern gaming industry, is they want to be able to sell you the same slop over and over and over again for a million years. GTA 6 is gonna be $100 and make me want to kill myself. Anyway, the more controls have normalized, the more we get upset when they're different. And two, it's just a simple fact that most people don't actually respect games as a form of art. Especially the guys on fucking Twitter and YouTube that yell and argue about them all day every day, despite what they might tell you. If you see someone giving praise to Neil Druckmann, aka Naughty Dog Cuckman, feel free to ignore their input on the topic of gaming as a whole. Now, after collecting a gajillion little things I probably didn't really need, we enter the final dungeon. The Dungeon of the Skull Kingdom. Would you believe me if I told you this is the most labyrinthine dungeon in the game? It damn well better be. It's about to end. Unfortunately, it's also not that hard of a dungeon to delve through. It was only a little rough for me because I was staring at a map every few seconds so I could scavenge whatever little trinkets I could possibly find. In order to collect the final piece of the Moonlight Sword, which are all conveniently placed around this map, we need to open the prison cells where we find an old king that lore dumps on us a little bit, but we're gonna look away for now so we can kill that evil demon man. You know, this guy's got some pretty cool lore, and that's kind of a letdown. Well, good news, we have all the pieces of the Moonlight Sword, and now we can put it back together and save the... Oh, that's not really what I had in mind, but I guess that works. Good news! We killed everyone we ever knew and loved, and now they're ghosts or some shit, and we're going into a coffin for later. Alright, now, after all that, are you wet and ready? for the deepest lore? Good. Stay hungry. We've got more to look at before we can put the pieces together. Remember, this is a prequel. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense out of context, so let's take a look at... Yeah, that one. Lunacid is a game from 2023. I already did this part. Shit. Welcome to real gangster shit. If you've never played a first-person dungeon crawler before, but want to try them, play Lunacid. If you want fast, yet well-paced and surprisingly intelligent action, play Lunacid. If you want some of the best music and atmosphere any game in the past 10 or more years has had, play Lunacid. Before I even give any real information about this game, I highly recommend you go play it. It's not expensive, and it's not overly long, unless you're going for all the secrets. You're actually doing yourself a disservice by not playing this game. On that note, let's get into why this game is so fucking good.
Long ago, a great beast came from the sea and brought with it a poisonous fog that spread across the earth. Corrupting everything it reached, the poison fog slowly transformed the world and brought about a new age. Now, grounded by the poison sky and outnumbered by creatures, humankind became desperate and formed feudal kingdoms. Closed off from each other, they became paranoid and are on the brink of extinction. Those deemed undesirable, such as criminals or the ill, are cast out, banished into the depths of the Great Well, a pit of the diseased and undead. The Great Well is said to have but one door to the surface.
Great news. We're not only deep under the earth, left to die, but we also only have one hand now, so we might be fucked. Good news though, someone left us a stone sword and... Wait. Let's talk about mechanics, because there's actually quite a bit to go over here. For starters, you've only got one hand. That means the only way you're going to be blocking anything is by putting your weapon in front of your face. Every different weapon has a different blocking stat, and if you've ever wanted to feel completely and utterly useless in life, imagine what it's like being blocking in Lunacid. I've never once fucking engaged with it. Just don't bother. You got other things you can do. Just backstep. Alongside blocking, every weapon does have a backstepping stat. How effective it is for backstepping and attacking. It's very simple. Or there's two other stats that are really cool. You can jump, and your jump height you can level up, as well as your running speed. Those are much better than blocking, I'm sorry to say it. With backstepping, it's only natural that that's going to be happening. Blocking you actually have to go out of your way to do, and it's unfortunately not worth it. Anyway, speaking of backstepping, that'll take us to attacking in general. See that little bar in the corner that fills up when I swing? That's the charge bar. You want that at maximum in order to do the most damage. It's kind of obvious. Different weapons, based on their heaviness or power, will have different charge times. But don't let that fool you. You don't have to be at maximum charge in order to let off a hit. If you just need to deal some damage really quick, let loose. There's some real rock and a hard place situations that are gonna happen, and sometimes you're gonna panic and just throw out a hit. That's okay. Or if it gets too bad, too overwhelming, too much going on, you can just run away. When leveling up, there is a speed stat directly leading to your movement speed. This is going to come in handy not just with dungeon crawling and actually getting around faster, but if you're in a tough situation, book it! Speaking of statistics, leveling up in this game is pretty direct and simple. First of all, every stat tells you what it does, which is helpful. You're mostly going to want to go for health, attack, and magic, because those are the three things you're probably going to be engaging with the most, but speed and jump height, surprisingly going to come in handy. Another important feature is this secondary bar you can see underneath my charge bar. As odd as it may sound, this is a weapon experience bar. Most weapons don't have one of these. What it does is, as you attack little pots and scenery as well as enemies, it will fill up. Once it is full, you can come to a forge that will find a little later, and you can turn it into a newer, more powerful weapon. This is a really cool idea. I didn't fully engage with it for every weapon that I found that had it, but it can lead to some really cool stuff. It's in fact needed for one of the special endings. Well, technically needed for the ending. It's actually just a consequence of your actions leading to getting the end. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Anyway, here's our first friend, Demi the Demon. She may seem too nice to be true, but no, this is her. She takes us to Wing's Rest, the only safe place in the Great Well and our hub for this game. In the deepest lore, this place was built by monks, and they put a spell over it to protect it, and they also raised Demi over here, but none of that's really important, is it? When we have our weapon in need of an upgrade, we'll come back over here, the forges, right there. When we need health potions, when we need to just run away for a moment, it's always back to Wing's Rest. This place is just cozy in a way that makes me come back, even if I don't have a reason to. Just want to stop by, say hi. Over here is Etna. She offers alchemy, which I rarely ever touched unless I really needed it, which was never. She's chill though, I guess. Right next to her across the table is Clive. He matters a lot more, but for now all he offers us is old man stories. On full moons, a crown can faintly be seen emanating above his skull. I wonder who this guy is. Over this way is Cheryl the Crow, the shopkeeper of the hub, though I really only came back to her to restock health potions because I kinda don't need mana potions with how little I use the magic, and I really don't want 2 rapiers. And that's kind of it for Wing's Rest. There's an ocean elixir in the rafters which increases our max mana, but other than that we can just hang out, sit on the bench and shit. Yeah. This is nice. Oh yeah, we have shit to do, damn it. Our ultimate goal is to go deep and find the Great One and wake his ass up. Normally, one might just use an alarm clock, but this is an advanced sleep. We're gonna need direct human intervention. We've got a long journey ahead of us, so let's head through the Temple of Silence and into the fetid mire. This area doesn't have too much of note. Quite a couple deaths on my part because I'm an overzealous asshole that thinks he can just rush through everything and be a-okay. If you've ever heard someone somewhere say that sewer levels are the worst levels in games, normally they're right, but this one isn't bad and actually has some fucking design nuance to it, unlike every single other sewer level ever. The most important thing we do here is help this pink slime named Jelisha with her relationship troubles. You see, she's been dating this skeleton named Bonard, but hasn't heard from him in a while and needs us to go check up on him. This lack of initiative to check on him herself is an obvious sign that their relationship is strained. If the fact that he hasn't visited her in ages wasn't enough, that is. Up above the sewer floor, next to a slime-covered skeleton no less, we find a note, and it's from Bonard. He writes that he has fallen in love with another, and that he no longer loves Jelisha. We of course deliver her the terrible news, to which he doesn't really care and instead goes for our tasty ass instead. As a reward, we're gifted the spell Slime Orb, which I never used. Well, despite the absolutely inspired art direction, so far this has been somewhat of a standard adventure. Well, let's move on to the next area and... Oh, that's a lot of blood. I'm sorry, what? Unfortunately, this place is just a transition area. Nothing but a stray spell ring, a demon man, and a... But if there were any area that absolutely stunned me every time I came through, it'd be this one. Like, I'm sure it's not the only underground evil lake of blood ever, but it's my first time and it's just so haunting. There's a big obvious castle off in the distance, but we're not headed there yet. We're gonna make a detour that'll save us a lot of trouble later. I have a big love-hate relationship with this place. On the one hand, oh cool, haunted underground tomb. Invisible enemies, cursed paintings, skeletons, horse heads, the whole 9 yards, you know? But on the other hand, it's a tedious labyrinth where we need to turn on the lights in order to see these fucked up beehive looking assholes. And that's not bad. That's good design. But I'm playing this game wrong by running around at Mach 5 and bee-hopping like this is Counter-Strike. There's also a ton of shit to do here to get the ending I want. Step 1, go find a fucking VHS tape. This is the obvious first step. And if you happen to have found the TV behind a hidden wall, behind a gate, locked until you use the lightning spell on it, then you're a fucking idiot, and we're just gonna kill you. With hammers, no less. Step 2, put the VHS in the VHS player. Here's a hint. It's built into the TV. This shows us how to get a special key, and we have to backtrack to the hollow basin to get it. Hooray. Step 3. Now that we have the key, we have to go back to the accursed tomb and find this weird looking wall. Use the key on it, and Yay, now we have the white VHS tape. This is why we came here. This is all we wanted. Also a black book, but I don't want to talk about that because then I'm gonna start screaming my lungs out about how much Death is a fucking asshole, and I just want my fucking book, dickhead! Anyway, let's go back to the Sanguine Sea and let's take a field trip to that sick-looking castle. You like vamps? You like ghouls? Ghasts? Ghosts? Things that go bump in the night? Well, fuck you. My passion in life is to be the next Chris Boers, and together we're gonna truth nuke these horrid hellspawn. Let's face it, Castle Lifanu is ruined, as my hero once said. So, of course, attached to the Lake of Blood is a vampire castle with maybe the most lore in the whole game for some fucking reason. Like, why is there an Egyptian temple connected to a lava river? Who cares? Take 12 novels about lesbian vampires and their chuddy incel son. God, I hate vampires. Here's this guy named Garat. He doesn't really do a lot other than talk a big game. We saw a little gravesite earlier for his fallen comrades. He wants to kill, like, fucking everything, but gets his ass handed to him every time. I don't know how he survived this far. We gotta go around the castle and find little amulets to progress further to get the next amulet until we get the green one, which leads us to the throne chamber, but we're not going there yet because we want to see what's in the clock tower. Fuck! I hate this place! Fuck! As you can perceive, I really do not want to fuck around here, and I just run through, grabbing every little thing I can before dipping. I just want the spells and I'll be out of your hair. There's no need to sick the fucking hand horses at me. I really insist. No, I simply couldn't have more. I'm full. Oh my fucking god, get off of my ass! Back in the main castle, we find a secret room with a bigger VHS player. This is where you play the white VHS, and I'll just show you the shit. I'll give you a little bit to decipher that yourself. So, there's a lot to interpret here. One is that a lot of these concepts tie into the ending I'm going for, but let's take a more nuanced look at it. For one, say hi to Akuma Kira. You've seen their works before, that's a guarantee from me. Lost in Vivo, Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, fucking, Tomar's Big Day Out. All modern classics. The obvious interpretation we could take from this is Oh, our lives could mean nothing and are completely fabricated by forces outside of our control, and if we really desire control over ourselves and our reality, then we have to have the will and power to stand up for ourselves and fight back. Obviously, I think this can also be viewed from the lens of Kira themselves. After all, no art is created in isolation, and the creator's perspective is the truest that we can get. So, what if, in part, this is a comment about the creation of said art? The artist is the dreamer, and subsequently, the art is the dream. Is the dream alive? Their programmed love and pain. Does it mean anything? Why should I feel bad when I kill an innocent NPC? They're not real. Or are they just not my kind of real? Is our love and pain worth it? Who's to say we aren't just a passing dream? We might as well be. Just because it's not real doesn't make it mean nothing. Literature, film, and video games alike have taught people endless lessons that wouldn't have been grasped otherwise. Should it matter how you learn if you have learned all the same? Should it matter why you think if you think all the same? A dream is an ideal, a whole world fabricated in the mind, and it's beautiful and horrifying, and it can teach us more about ourselves than we could naturally ever know. How much longer do you think I could repeat myself about these topics? Isn't that all philosophy ends up as anyway? Much to think about. Hustlers must play. This has completed the first half of the special ending. Next up, getting every single fucking spell in this game. We need to have all of them. This'll help us get to a adequate level and have what we need to fight the final boss at that subpar level. So let's get out of here, babe, and go to the throne chamber. I hate vampires. I really cannot tell you how much I hate them. There are approximately 60,000 miles of veins that make up my vascular system. If you were to inscribe the word hate on every last nanoangstrom of those tens of thousands of miles of veins, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for vampires in this instant. We're about to fight the first boss. He's a vampire. He's on the cover of the game. I don't care for him. He's dumb and stupid and a fucking vampire, and I'm gonna eviscerate him. Fun fact, him and the narrator are voiced by Robert Belgrade, notable for being the voice of Alucard in Symphony of the Night. That's really sick, but fortunately I still don't like Krelal. Stupid fucking name too. His fight is fucking frustrating because he has a stupid big health bar and regenerates health during phase 1, so if you're like me and are allergic to grinding, this is just a slog. Again, I played this game wrong. I've beat it like 5 times. I've played this game wrong every single time. It's not necessarily the developer's fault that I'm underleveled. The whole point is I'm supposed to be pacing myself and acting thoughtfully, but in a moment of clarity and human free will, I defy this and choose to be a low level and fight the vampire boss during a full moon. Oh yeah, this game tracks real-life moon cycles. Like, there's shit you can only get during a full moon, or in this case, Krelal is stronger. That's the unnecessary kind of dedication you'll only get from an indie dev, I tell ya what. Of course, because he's like the beloved protagonist or some horseshit, we don't actually kill him. And no, of course we don't see or hear from him again. Why would we? All that matters is that the stupid Yuri Love vampire was allowed to live because he's like so powerful and everyone loves him, and actually he was holding back and he has an anti-losing force field. And another area I love and hate. I am a big advocate for prison areas in games, especially fantasy. They're awesome. Heh, I was a Riddick fan before it was cool. This area does not disappoint on the prison scale. It is a ruined prison on top of a pit of nightmare creatures. What more could I ask for? The only problem is, since I've beaten this game before, I know how close I am to the end, without taking into account that I'm underleveled as hell. This doesn't really matter until the giant skeletons. Garad is here too, and there's a little side quest, but I forgot to grab the hammer and give it back to him. Not like it would matter anyway. Loser. Also, there's an angel in one of the cells. There's a spell ring under it. Why is there an angel in a cell? No comment. Here's more lore about the vampire castle instead. There's a really odd mechanic in the lowest area of the prison, where you can place a skeleton egg, only obtainable by playing as a certain class, and you have to wait a whole real month before it hatches. I assume you can probably cheat it using your PC's clock, but I didn't deem this something absolutely necessary for me to religiously document. Just a weird footnote in the design of this game. Just like a cool concept. I think more games should do shit like that. Before we head to the true final area, let me make a couple detours just for shits and giggles because I need all the spells and that's where they are. I think on my first time playing through, this was one of my favorite areas. It felt unbelievably mystical and strange for a forest. Creatures made of light, giant killer butterflies, man-eating plants. But by now though, I recognize its mechanical purpose of mostly being a different route to the accursed tomb, with the cool conceptual idea of what if there were a lush forest deep underground. There's an NPC here named Patchouli. She runs a shop that means nothing to me. She has a side quest that we need to activate to get to another area. Guess what? Just for the spells. I hate to say it, but this may be the most meaningless area in the game. It's a continuation of the forest theme, but what if it were taller and you could accidentally miss a jump and die instantly? There's 2 loose spells, and if we want to finish the side quest, we can grab a skull, for which Patchy the Pirate gives us an elixir. Yay. Now this place has style. I must admit, guilty as charged. I'm a sucker for fire levels. Not even just fire levels, but levels with, like, heat. Like in Mega Man Zero, I don't remember, I think it was 3. There was that level with the big moth, or it was a butterfly. Maybe it was just a cocoon, or it was just a flying insect. Anyway, it had that mechanic where if you were in direct sunlight for too long, you'd start taking heaps of damage, and I think that's a really cool and unique idea. Unfortunately, Boiling Grotto doesn't have something like that. But it does have a lava river I mentioned previously, and 2 small puzzles which I think is something the game desperately needed more of. The first puzzle we need to solve is stopping the big snake statue from breathing fire. Well, that's easy. Go shut off 2 valves and it reveals some ancient Egyptian-style temple for some fucking reason. There's some ties to the bigger lore in Sir Hicket over here, but other than that, most areas, including here, don't really mean anything, which is a shame. Like I said earlier, I'd love to know why there's an Egyptian temple here. Tears of the Moon didn't really tell me anything about this place, unless somehow this is part of Lyria that just got sunk. I do have to reiterate, I think that's a shame that we know everything about Krelal the vampire and his family tree, why his castle is underground, why all of his thralls are thralls, why all of the enemies in the sealed ballroom are corrupted, and even more. And we know nothing about this place, or why there's a forest down here. Well, we know why there's a forest down here, technically, but there's so many questions that go unanswered for vampires. I mean, we technically do have an answer for any question we might ask of why is this down here, which is, hey, remember when Calamus Cerulean opened up the moon? You know, like shot a giant beam into the moon? Well, all of Lyria then collapsed into the earth. You remember what Lyria looked like in that cutscene, right? I don't get it, but we're just gonna have to take it as is. Anyway, none of that really matters. I just got this spell Ignis Calor, which I'm gonna use on Sir Hicket until his body melts underneath his armor, so that we can collect it and give it to Cheryl the Crow. She really wanted it and is gonna update her shop like a tiny bit, and gonna give it to an NPC that maybe we've seen before, maybe we haven't. It's completely unnecessary, it doesn't change anything actually, but I like doing it because I have the spell anyway and I'm already here. Hey, that name's fucking familiar, huh? I kinda gave away why this area is here and named this. All of Lyria just collapsed into the earth. Remember latest keep that we were at for like 5 seconds? Shit, I just remembered there was a dragon at latest keep that I never talked about. Sorry. There's only one spell in this area, and the Bestial Communion tablet, but I honestly wanted the secret sword more. The only problem is that in order to get to the sword, you have to cross an invisible path above a death pit. Good luck, hope you have the coffin spell, or a carrion flight might actually help here too. Despite the trouble, it's a sick sword, and for me it was completely worth all the mind-numbing laying of coffins. It easily became my favorite sword, as you've probably already seen. Directly attached to latest chasm is the Great Well surface. There's really nothing here except for a reminder that we're stuck underground forever. But we didn't want to escape anyway, I guess. Let's go home, Demi. Jump off the side of Castle Le Fenu, fucking of course, and it takes you to this random and kind of dumb boss fight. We want the black book he drops for the next area. Lore galore, this is wonderful. No, I'm not telling you yet, be fucking patient. The big reason we're here is this guy named Daedalus. He wants black books, and in exchange for their forsaken knowledge, he'll give us special spells, one of which is gonna save my ass later. He's got some weird glitch where he'll keep asking for the last book, or he'll just keep reading it and never hand over the spell. I gave him the book like 5 times, waited 2 hours total when it should have taken 10 minutes, and then my solution was, when he asked again, keep telling him no about the book. Eventually he just gave up and handed me the spell. Working as intended, I'm sure. It probably feels like I'm speedrunning talking about these areas now, but I assure you, this was just my experience. Not in this order of events exactly, but I was running through this shit because it's all optional. I mean, if you want to be adequately powerful for the final boss, yeah, you ought to be going around and engaging with enemies, unlike me, and collecting all kinds of shit, but if you've got determination and patience, then yeah, you can skip it all probably. Not that I ever have or even would. This area holds a lot of significance. You might recognize the name Wind Sage Ozin. He was Wind Asshole in Tears of the Moon. This is the 3rd Wind Sage Ozin, I guess. The name Abdul al-Hazred, if you don't recognize it from literature alone, also comes up a lot here, and he'll matter in just a little bit. He doesn't really matter for the ending we're going for, but he does have some lore significance. The Temple of Silence in the Hollow Basin, the starting area, is dedicated to him and his blood magic and his teachings of how to escape the underground by escaping reality. Back to the Labyrinth of Ash, in order to get to Abdul's Reality Distortion Temple, we need to destroy 3 harps that summon a great windstorm. Also, check out these cool guys called Centaurs. They're fucked up because they were just regular dudes trying to transcend existence itself. We've all been there. And then oops, they accidentally turned into malformed beasts of magic. Hell, rip bozo, I guess. The temple has one of my favorite spells. No more need for crystal shards, we can just go home whenever we want. There's also an enemy here that drops a spell, but like the other two enemy spells, Dark Skull and Summon Kodama, it has a painfully low drop rate, so you have to fucking grind it out, and it's mind-numbing, and I think this may be the worst part of the game. That's a weird stance, I know. It gives a reason to grind out enemies and get XP, but it's fucking tedious when I have collected literally every other spell in the game, except for Summon Kodama and Tornado, and I forget that I don't have those because, fuck me, I have no reason to ever even consider using them. So I go fight the final boss, and even though I did the fucking VHS side quest already, I don't get the ending I want, and god fucking damn it, I have to grind these stupid fucking asswipes. Give me my spells. Shadow Tower reference. Also, if you beat the gauntlet here, the Sword of Moonlight is at the end. I didn't do that. Sorry. There wasn't a spell here, so I didn't deem it worthy of my time, even though the sword probably would have been really helpful. I know, I'm a fake gamer. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. It will happen again, but it won't happen again. So that's that for side areas. So what about that place attached to Terminus Prison? So real quick, there was this guy, the Knight Sucsarius. He was like uber powerful and got cursed a lot, and his curses made him immortal, but he was still dedicated to his kingdom and fought a war single-handedly like he's Guts or some shit. And then he came down to the Great Well and guards the Great One to keep him sleeping. In order to get to him, we need to go through these cool little mazes and get special seals to open the gate. There's also these hidden items that can be used to forge a sword, needed for an alternate ending, but I don't want to do that one, I'm sorry. I'll tell you about it in a bit though.
Tomo, are you afraid? Do you have fear in your life, Tomo?
Final boss, yay! So, this is Sucsarius, if you couldn't tell, and because I'm a dumb asshole who rushed through the game, my only way of beating him was using the spells Lava Chasm and Moonbeam and just herding his path detection into them for as long as possible. What can I say, I'm a little pussy and I love my area of effect spells. Phase 1 is really the only problem. He does huge damage, can regenerate health, has a surprisingly varied moveset, and he's scary. If he can't hit me though, he can't kill me, so keeping the distance is the big factor here. Whoa, almost as if engaging with the mechanics as intended was the right move, and I should have been wiser sooner about picking my battles and shit. Anyway, when Phase 1 ends, Sucsarius goes directly for the kill on us. Luckily, our friends arrive just in time. Demi, Etna, Cheryl, and this odd Clive the skeleton-shaped man wearing the armor we got off of Hicket. They help us get Sucsarius out of his body. That armored guy throws us the Lucid Blade, and we're gifted with one of the best battle tracks I have ever heard in a video game. Seriously, take a listen to this. I haven't touched on the music yet. I will, but fuck, this is just the pinnacle of the soundtrack. It's all here. I'll talk more about it later. Let's get back to the fight. This second phase isn't a challenge at all. It's all spectacle, but it's so good. After an entire journey of feeling powerless, we finally get our chance to wreak absolute havoc on this guy. We need to destroy his curses in sequential order, which will each make him fall down, and then we get to smack his ass. It's that simple. Our sword shoots beams too, and our mana and health are like infinite cause Etna is enchanting us. We cannot lose. Thus, with the power of friendship and this badass sword, we slay the unkillable knight. Now we get to go wake up God. The armored man lets us know his name is Calamus, and just to be clear, this is obviously Clive. They both have the glowy crown, and Clive is the most knowledgeable NPC in the game, whereas Calamus is the protagonist of Tears of the Moon and the first exile in the Great Well. Of course he would know everything. Sorry about that detour, let's get this over with.
Dreamer awakens, what happens to the inhabitants of the dream, or the world that was traveled, or the pain that was felt? The experience will linger sometimes, and the dreamer will remember. Some aspects of the dream will travel the veil and live with the dreamer in the waking world. There are no credits here, because this isn't the end. Newest of the fallen, take up your sword and fight.
Fuck, yeah, I forgot I don't have those spells. Let me grab them. Well, while we're here, let's decipher what this ending means, because it's the canon one. It's kind of obvious, and a bit of a continuation of the white VHS. We awaken the dreamer, and then we awaken. This world was never real. Or in fact, it was real, but isn't anymore. It will live on somewhere deep inside, and will carry this experience. It, even only slightly, shall shape the future. It could also be baiting a sequel or something. I don't know, that'd be kinda cool. Now let me go get those spells. Genuinely the only part of this game that makes me upset. I'm used to this from Diablo and MMOs, and I don't want it anymore. We thankfully don't have to fight Sucsarius again, so let's get right to it. Guess what, dumb bitch? This is Drakengard now. You're gonna play a rhythm game, and you are going to like it. There's not much to say that can't be observed. Such as, A, this is the coolest way to end a game, period. End of discussion. Every game should end with a rhythm game. And B, I am out of practice and haven't played a rhythm game in a while. Oops. This is the sole reason I wanted this ending, by the way. This is it. And you know what? It was worth it. After defeating the Great One, we become the new Dreamer and dream our own world within this world. But we're not nearly as powerful as it, so our world is just gray and full of homunculi. And then we die. Good job! There's also two other endings, one where we go through the gates of Tartarus and the Labyrinth of Ash and accidentally introduce an alternate dimension to evil and death. Very cool, nice ending. I just didn't go for it because I don't wanna. Sorry. The last ending is the computer telling me how much he loves me and how we're the bestest friends in the world. Yay! And that's the journey of Lunacid. Before I end this, let me talk about a couple other things. Firstly, I've teased enough about the lore, so let me pick up from square one. So, there's this creature called the Great One. You may or may not have heard of it. Its dream is existence itself, just like that one Lovecraft monster I forgot the name of. One day, it woke up, and that would have been the end of it all, but the moon melted and released an evil fog all over the world. This led to something called the Dark War, where humanity split into feudal kingdoms and combated the monsters that spawned from the fog. Two kingdoms that spawned from this fracturing of humanity were Skull and Lyria. Around this time of the Dark War, a guy named King Griffith, like the funny berserk man, killed a beast called a Jotun and drank its cranial fluid for some fucking reason. This, somehow, blessed him with the ability to use magic. I think this is the king from the prison cell in Tears of the Moon, and if it is, this permanently altered humanity as a race, turning them into elves instead, as he put it. Anyway, now that humanity had magic, they were able to actually fend off the monsters effectively, which began the first age of magic. One day during this age, a drop of liquid moonlight landed on this guy named Calamus Cerulean, and it gave them a vision of the Great One waking up and ending the world. We play through his journey to collect the shattered pieces of the Moonlight Sword. Using this sword, Calamus mollywopped the moon to intentionally increase the power of the dark fog, so that the Great One would stay asleep longer. This instantly destroyed Lyria, like all of Lyria, completely blasted into the earth. This created the hole that it eventually turned into the Great Well. This event made magic kinda sorta extremely taboo, so the Age of Magic ended. Not much is known between this time and the time of the Golden Lance, just that there was somehow a second Age of Magic, and also vampire shit, but I don't want to talk about them, not yet at least. Anyway, after the second Age of Magic, the Great Well was officially constructed, and 3 kingdoms formed the Golden Lance, which was a coalition that had control for a long time. Now I have to talk about the vampires. So, this one girl, Justina Lefanu, had a castle and she had a knight and they fell in love and used magic to become vampires and somehow scissored a son into the world, and he was a true vampire, which really doesn't mean anything. The Scissor Sisters entered into 1,000-year slumber and left their son Creelal in control of the castle. Using magic, he hid the entire castle in the Great Well, which turned all the castle servants into vampire ghouls. Then the Golden Lance started a civil war because despite the fact that they banned magic, they were found out to have in fact been using magic. So the Golden Lance getting fractured like this led to the shit called the Crusades, where they found Castle Lefanu and sieged it and turned a bunch of people into monsters. Probably around this same time, this guy, Sir Hicket, part of the Golden Lance, went to the Boiling Grotto wearing that indestructible armor. He got boiled alive inside of it and later was boiled completely when we wanted the armor. Also around this time, Sucsarius probably got all his curses and came down into the well, but anything not focused on the vampires gets really vague. Can you see why I have a grudge against them? Maybe it's just me, but I don't think they serve a purpose to deserve having an entire story about why Scissor Sisters got to have a son or some shit, I don't know. It's not the deepest story you've ever heard. It's mostly just set dressing, really, but it does add a weight to why things are the way they are. Why would there even need to be a prequel if the basics of the story weren't good enough to be explained further, you know? Most of what the average player is gonna care about is, oh, there's a big monster that dreams the world into being, I have to go kill it. And that alone is pretty cool, and that alone could have been it. But there's more to it, and it's a good sign that my biggest complaint is that I want to know even more. Before I conclude this, hey, how about that their soundtrack, huh? For one, the soundtrack was done by a handful of people. You might recognize them from other places. Akuma Kira was lead dev and they did some of the songs. There's Jaren Christ, who has worked with Kira before, specifically on Lost in Vivo, which is an amazing game and has a gorgeous soundtrack thanks to Jaren. There's Thor High Heels, who's a YouTuber that, I'm gonna be honest, I've never heard of before, but they can at least write some damn good songs, and that's gotta count for something. Lastly, there's both Aster Vrisk and Jeffrey Norden, who I couldn't really find anything on, but again, solid songs count for more than words could. Aster Vrisk seems to have a lot more original stuff, but I can't really say any more than that. Anyway, check out these examples. Very impressive. There's a lot of music considering how small this game is, and I really appreciate that. It keeps every moment fresh the whole time through. Now, obviously, there are some standouts above the rest. No disrespect to the other artists, but Jaren, Christ, and Akuma Kira, for good reason, have absolute mastery over the atmosphere and tone of this game. 3 songs stand out as masterpieces: Jaren Christ's Serence and Lucid, and Kira's Moon Shrimp. Serence is the theme of Wing's Rest, and, as such, serves a very important purpose. It is our indicator of the single point of respite in this doomed, dreary world. As such, it needs to put us at peace, a single breath of beautiful fresh air in this dark mire. By God, does it achieve this. Also by Jaren Christ, master of my heart that he is Lucid, the Phase 2 theme for Sucsarius. I genuinely find myself lost for words trying to describe this, but I'll do it anyway. The first word that comes to my mind is perfect. This just encapsulates everything, not just of his character, not just of the weight of this fight, but the entire game is felt in this song. We've journeyed far into a strange, strange world, with the sole purpose being to awaken a deity that will instantly end all of existence as we know it. This fight is heavy. It is an unstoppable force versus an immovable object, and we have to cheat to win. Also, what better way to end a weird-ass game with the least fantasy genre of music possible? The breakbeats, combined with the nigh religious chanting, is just a beautifully unique sound. Perfect. Lastly, but certainly not least, is Moon Shrimp by Akumakira. This is the track that plays during the fight with the Great One, and if it weren't for the fact that I listened to this song a fuck ton casually, I probably would have lost the fight. You saw how bad I did. This song is an extension of Lucid in a way, rather than the viciousness of Sucsarius being what's displayed. It shows the unknowable majesty of the Great One. It also perfectly works as a rhythm game song. Each sound is unique and recognizable to where if you're locked in and actually know what you're doing, you can probably easily finish the fight. I'm also a huge fan of how at the end it actually plays a snippet of Lucid. Could you tell it's my favorite song from this game? I would buy this soundtrack on vinyl if I had the opportunity. It's up there as one of my favorites ever. So moody, atmospheric, and all the same, absolutely willing to get down and dirty when it's time. If you've sat through the video this far, I assume you're not gonna pick this game up and play it unless you already have. That's just how it goes. I still recommend you do because it is worth your time and money to experience firsthand. Easily one of the best games of the 2020s so far, hands down. Even if you don't buy Lunacid, check out Tears of the Moon. It's free. You're not losing anything by playing it. While you're at it, go look at Akumakira's other games if you haven't seen them before. They're all modern day classics, and I assume Kira is only going to put out even more and better games as time goes on. Absolute beast of a developer. Legendary. Also stream the OST, play it while you're working or something, boost those fucking numbers. I rate this game my ass out of 10. Thanks for watching and have a good night.